Alrighty, welcome. This is Jono. Now, you've got a community and you want to get people together online for a community meetup. But most online events are so boring, just slides and slides of drivel and watching somebody waffle through something. And most of us are distracted with our email or Facebook or whatever else. We're not really zoned into the event. So how do you create an amazing event that's interactive, that's dynamic, but easy to run? Well, I'm going to show you in 4 simple steps. Okay, so let's get our steps on the board. And this can apply to absolutely any community. It doesn't matter what size your community is, it doesn't matter what the topic is, where in the world you are, it doesn't really matter, okay? What you are gonna need for this is a video conferencing platform that has support for breakout groups, okay? So Zoom, for example, does this, many other platforms do this as well. But what that means is that you can break your broader attendance of an event into smaller groups, okay? And I'll get to why that's important a little bit later on, okay? Now, the first step of the process is for us to figure out the logistics, okay? What is the event gonna look like, okay? Now, there's a few things that you wanna consider here. This is what I would recommend that you do, and this is based upon years and years of trial and error and experimentation. The first is that you make your event 90 minutes, okay? Now, you might wanna make it a little bit shorter at an hour, but that kind of feels a little bit like a webinar, but a 90-minute event is a juicy event. It's a bit more meaningful, but what you're gonna promise people is that this isn't just slides, this is actually education, and it's interactive. There's a collaborative component to this, okay? So decide how long it's gonna be. Now, in terms of when you run it, you ideally wanna run it 2 to 3 weeks out, okay? You need time to promote it, as I'm gonna get to a little bit later on, okay? So make sure at least 2 to 3 weeks, maybe even a month out, but you pick a date, pick a time. You're gonna have to pick a time that's right for you and your community and where your community are based, and then map it out for 2 or 3 weeks out, okay? And then what you're gonna wanna do is to pick an overall topic, okay? Now, the topic ideally is gonna be something practical and relatable to your audience that is all about solving a pain point or a roadblock. I talk about this a lot in my videos, is that if you wanna build amazing communities, you need to solve your audience's pain, okay? So for example, if we're talking about a technology community in infrastructure, then maybe the topic could be how to deploy to the cloud without the hassle. Or let's say the community is focused on guitar playing, then the topic could be, how to play faster with less practice or something along those lines. It's all about reducing the frustration and the pain that your audience have got. So 90-minute event, plan it 2 to 3 weeks out and pick a really compelling topic. The topic is super important. If it's not compelling, people are just not gonna show up, okay? Now, next step is to pick your speakers, okay? These are the people who are gonna be committed to speaking at the event, all right? Now, most of these events, as I mentioned earlier on, are kind of boring, okay? You've got someone waffling on for half an hour with a 60-slide deck, and we just zone out. It's just not that exciting, okay? So what we wanna do is we wanna focus on what I call shares, okay? I'm sure some other people call it this too. This is where you're gonna have 3 speakers, so I'm gonna write that down, 3 speakers. And what they're gonna do is they're just gonna show up and share something that they've learned. So for example, if we're talking about the guitar playing community, it could be, hey, this is a new tuning that I've learned. Or if somebody could get up and share, okay, here is a new way in which I've learned how to play these particular modes and these particular kinds of scales, okay? They're just gonna show up and share something. Now, is this gonna be 30 minutes long? Is that why it's a 90-minute long event? Each of the speakers gonna be 30 minutes? No. You know how long are they gonna be? 7 minutes. You're probably thinking, but Jono, why 7 minutes? That's not long enough. Well, when you have short sessions, it's gonna force your speakers to compress as much insight and value into a short period of time. You get more out of it for your audience, okay? So this means that in less than 40 minutes, you can get through 3 speakers. It's short, snappy, focused for your audience, and your speakers don't have a huge lift, and they get focused in terms of the content that they're putting out, okay? So this is really absolutely critical, is that they're short sessions, okay? And then what you also want it to be is a practical, God, I cannot write. I'm so sorry for my handwriting. It's absolute shit. Each of these topics should be practical in nature. We don't want waffly strategic visions of the future. We don't want abstract kind of observations of what's going on. Real, useful, practical things that someone can put into practice today. Okay, so when you're evaluating your speakers, who's got something really valuable that they can share in 7 minutes? And I'd reach out to your community and ask them to come and volunteer to come and speak at these kinds of sessions. You know, everybody's got 7 minutes in them, right? Now, here's another thing that's really important about this, and I'm going to write this here. Oh, I'm going to try and write it there. I wrote a V instead of an N, okay? No slides. Okay? We're all sick of slides. I don't want to look at another slide. You know, through the pandemic, watching countless boring, uninteresting online presentations with reams and reams of slides. This is ideally, these folks are going to be sharing their screen and sharing something useful that they can just show directly, or just turning the camera on if they're going to show something physical, such as a device or a gadget or something along those lines, but no slides, okay? Just focus on sharing. Now, some people may need to visualize something with slides. You don't ban slides outright, but ideally don't have a slide requirement in terms of how you do this, okay? Now, the third step. Okay, so let's just recap where we are at this point. So you've picked a date and time for your event that's 2 to 3 weeks out. It's going to be 90 minutes long. You're going to pick a really practical, compelling topic that's going to solve pain points and roadblocks, okay? Now you're going to find 3 speakers who are going to share something practical and useful for 7 minutes on a practical topic, and you're not going to require slides from them, okay? Make sense so far? Yeah? Leave me a comment if this is making sense so far. And this is a good time for you to like this video. Go and like it, it helps my videos to get in front of more people. And then of course, hit that subscribe button and tickle that little notification bell, because that will show you when my new videos come out, okay? Now, step 3 is to promote. This is where we need to go and bang the drum about our event, okay? Now, most communities that I've worked with don't do a very good job of promoting their events, which I find mind-boggling. You put in all of this effort into this, you gotta go and spread the word, okay? So there's basically 3 key areas where I want you to focus in promoting these, okay? So the first one is social, okay? Get as much social media out there as possible on your own social media networks, on any community, official community social media networks, but go and promote it on social media, okay? Talk about each of your individual speakers and what they're gonna be talking about. Talk about the fact that you're gonna have some discussion and interactive content in the event. If you've got any giveaways that you can provide, talk about those. You know, talk about how people can go and register and go and sign up, okay? But promote it consistently. If your event is 2 to 3 weeks out, you wanna have at least 2 to 3 messages a week in the build up to your event. That's gonna remind people over and over again that they should come and join this killer community event, okay? So social is the first place. The second place is in your community, okay? So if you've got a forum or a Slack channel or a Discord or you know, IRC or a mailing list, wherever your community is hanging out, go and promote it there. Put it up on your community blog, okay? Talk about it on your community podcast if you've got one. Talk about it on your community YouTube channel if you've got one. But go and promote it in your community. Make sure everybody knows that this is an option for them to attend, so they need to make a concrete decision about whether they're going to show up or not. And then the third and final place is content. Okay, is actually go and create some content that kind of relates to the event. So my example earlier on of the topic being, you know, for a guitar event could be about how to learn scales and modes quickly and easily without as much practice. Well, maybe you could put out some blog posts or some podcasts, or you could put out a YouTube video about this, and then at the end of the content, promote the event. So someone goes and reads a blog post about a particular topic, like, oh, that was cool. And then at the event, it says, hey, if you're interested in this, come and join our event that's happening on this particular date, okay? Now, quick sidebar, if you're interested in doing content really well, if you want to create amazing blog posts and YouTube videos and podcasts and do great webinars and how to brainstorm effectively and pick interesting topics and all that kind of stuff, I've actually built a complete training course that walks you through how to do exactly that. You can go and check out the link down there in the video description. All right, now let's move on to our fourth and final step, okay? And this, let me just check my notes. This is where we run the event, okay? Now, we've planned the event out, we've picked our speakers, we've promoted the heck out of it, now we need to run it. So how do we actually fill up that 90 minutes and how do we do this effectively? And you're probably thinking, but Jono, you talked about these breakout groups and some interactive content, you haven't touched on that yet. Well, fear not, my friend, because what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna clear this off. I'm gonna walk you through exactly what you need to do to run your event, because I'm a big believer here in a full featured offering with my videos. I want to give you as much information as I possibly can that can be useful to you. And hopefully this is useful already. If it is, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and of course, tap that little notification bell, okay? Now, there's 4 pieces that are involved in running your event in that 90 minutes, okay? The first one here is the intro, okay? Now, the second piece is going to be your shares, okay? And don't worry, I'm going to walk through exactly what you need to do to run each of these. The third piece is going to be your breakouts, okay? Breakouts. And then your final piece down here is going to be your wrap up, okay? So when you kick off the event, right, when people show up at the beginning of your 90-minute block, the first thing you want to do is to have a 3 to 5 minute intro. Okay, just welcome people to the event, maybe a little bit of housekeeping about how they use the video conferencing platform that you're using, but you just welcome people into the event and make them feel comfortable, okay? 3 to 5 minutes, super short. Too many of these meetups have someone droning on for 10 or 15 minutes and you're sat there and you're thinking, make it f***ing stop, okay? 3 to 5 minutes, that's max what you should focus on. Now what you're gonna have is 2 to 3 minutes of news, okay, of community news. So share some really cool things that are going on in your community right now. Think of them as bullet points. Hey, just wanna share these 3 to 5 really cool things are going on. We launched this new website, we started this new initiative, hey, we shipped these new releases, blah, 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 and thank people while you're going through the news as well. So this is you've got a group there. Like, this is an opportunity to make everyone feel really great and kind of, you know, dig into that news. Now, this is really important. You ready for this? No attendee. Can you guess what's coming next? Can you guess? Write down in the comments if you think you can guess. No attendee intros. Okay? Do not go to each of the individuals who's attended this meetup and ask them to introduce themselves, okay? For 2 reasons. 1, it takes up way too much time. It's way too time consuming, okay? You're gonna eat into everything else in this 90-minute session. And 2, no one cares. Like, it's nice to kind of get a sense of who people are and for people to feel comfortable in sharing who they are. Nothing wrong with that, but this is not an efficient way of doing it, okay? It takes up too much time and no one wants to sit through 20 or 30 of these intros. Now, if you've got 3 people at your event, then maybe, but you should be working hard at promoting if you've only got 3 people showing up, okay? Do not do the attendee intros. If you really want to do this, then go and ask people to write an intro into the chat and then they can read it there, okay? So that's your intro. No more than kind of 7 to 10 minutes max, okay, is what you want to focus on there, okay? Now we get into the shares. So you remember our 3 speakers that we talked about earlier on, okay? They're going to do their 7-minute share. So what you're going to do is this is going to take 40 minutes max, okay? So you want to get through all 3 shares in 40 minutes, right? So what you're going to do is you're going to have a 7-minute share, right? And there's going to be 3 of them. And then after each share, you want to have a little bit of Q&A. And this might only be 1 or 2 questions, but you know, Joe or Josephine Blogs goes and does their share, and the group are like, yeah, that was really cool. And then somebody asks a question, somebody else asks a question, boom, move on to the next one. Now, the reason why I structure it this way is because when you're half an hour into the event, you've already got some great news, you've had a really friendly intro, you've already seen a couple of shares. So it's high value for your attendees, and that's what these events are all about. They've got to be high value for your attendees because then they're going to come back for more of these events, okay? 40 minutes max. Watch that clock, okay? If you're not keeping people on time, it's just going to go over and over and over, and it's going to be a nightmare, okay? The best events are the ones that have efficient timekeeping. And one of the things I'd recommend is you reach out to your speakers and say, look, if you're going over, I'm going to ping you in the chat, keep an eye on that, but I might have to cut you off so we can stay on time, all right? Now what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the breakouts. So I mentioned earlier on that you don't just want to have people sitting there passively watching content in these events. You want to make it interactive, and this is what the breakout sessions are all about, okay? So what I want you to do is to do the following, okay? I want you to pick an overall topic, okay? So you're going to have a group discussion with everybody who's signed into the event and pick an overall topic that relates to all of this. So let's say we're a community that's focused on I don't know, I'm going to pick a random topic, global warming, right? And the topic that we want to have is how can we do a better job in our community of putting good content out there, okay? So the overall topic would be, how to create amazing community content and put it out there, right? So pick an overall topic. Now what you want to do is to pick individual group topics and facilitators. Now, don't worry, I'm going to explain what this means, because I know you're probably thinking, what on earth are you banging on about, Bacon? Okay, so let's say for the sake of argument, you've got 60 people who you're anticipating coming to your event. What you want to do is you want to break those 60 people into a series of groups that are no more than 20 people in size, okay? So for a 60-person meetup, I'd probably have 3 groups, okay? If you've got 80, maybe 4 groups, right? And what you're going to do is each of those groups are going to have a specific topic within that overall topic that they're going to discuss, and you'll have a facilitator for each of those groups that's going to kind of keep the conversation flowing. So if our overall topic is how to improve our content that we're putting out there as part of our global warming community, then let's say the individual group topics for our 3, let's say, one could be on blogging, one could be on social media, one could be on YouTube videos, for example, okay? And then you'll pick a facilitator, one person who will just make sure that everybody has an opportunity to have a say, that keeps everybody on time, to kind of run that. So pick your facilitators first, okay? Make sure that before you run your event, you know who your facilitators are gonna be. If you don't know a lot about facilitation, go and take a look on YouTube. There's loads of great videos on how to do that, okay? So the way this is gonna work is that you're gonna kick off the breakouts section. You're gonna introduce your overall topic. You're gonna explain how this is gonna work. And then you're gonna say, we've picked these 3 topics for each of our 3 different groups, and we're gonna put you into those groups, okay? And then for the first portion of this, right, you're gonna discuss the topic, okay? This is gonna last 15 minutes, all right? So everybody goes into the 3 different groups, and each group for 15 minutes is gonna discuss that topic. So for example, it could be blogging. How can we put better blog posts out there as part of our global warming topic, okay? And what each of the facilitators has got to get to is coming up with 3 to 5 recommendations, things that they can share with everybody at the end of this 15-minute session. So your facilitators are going to want to maybe cut people off kind of 10 minutes in and say, okay, what are our recommendations going to be, all right? So the next phase after the 15 minutes is going to be the readouts. I'm sorry that you probably cannot read what that is. Ironically, readouts is unreadable. This is going to be 5 minutes. Okay, so when you've had when each of the groups has talked for 15 minutes, you bring everybody back into the whole session, and this is really easy on platforms like Zoom. And then each of the facilitators will read out the recommendations that each of the groups had. Okay, does that make sense? So now everybody gets to benefit from listening to the other groups. However, some of your attendees are going to be thinking, well, I was in the YouTube session, but I really would have preferred to have been in the blogging group, okay? Well, this is where people can next change groups, okay? So you're going to repeat this process, but people can pick a separate group that they'd like to go to themselves. So now what happens is everybody's heard all the readouts, people go and have another 15-minute conversation, you bring everybody back out again, you have another set of readouts, and it's another layer of information and recommendations based upon the first layer of information and recommendations. And ideally this will be tracked in a Google document or something along those lines. But this is an amazing way of making a really interactive session, okay? And then once you've done this and you're done with this, what you're gonna do is you're gonna wrap up the event, okay? So you're gonna first of all provide some thanks, okay? You're gonna thank everybody who spoke, everybody attended, thank people for the amazing recommendations, and then what you're gonna do is have 3 to 5 high fives. This is where you're gonna pick 3 to 5 people in your community. You're gonna say, thank you so much for you doing this and this and this and this. It's a really nice way to cap off the event. It's a really nice way to show we as a community, we care about our attendees, we care about our participants and contributors, and we want to recognize this amazing work that's going on. You know, so if you think about it, by the end of this 90-minute session, what has the attendee experienced, right? They showed up, simple, quick intro, 3 really compelling, practical shares that are solving their problems and breaking down their roadblocks, an interactive set of breakout group discussions where they get to go and meet people and have conversations, and everybody gets to hear what everybody's recommendations are. And then at the end of the event, everybody gets thanked. They hear about some amazing people who've been doing some amazing work. They feel inspired by that. Boom, 90 minutes, nailed it, okay? So that is what I would recommend as your strategy for running an amazing community meetup, okay? So if you found this useful, be sure to go and hit the like button. I'd love to hear your comments about, your thoughts on this, what you'd recommend, how can we improve this formula? Because I'm always learning and growing. I mean, I've evolved this over the years, but I'm always eager to hear from you about what you think about how we can improve and change and optimize it. Be sure, of course, to hit that subscribe button and, of course, tap that little notification bell, and I'll see you on the other side. Peace out.